President Donald Trump signed the COVID relief bill into law, the very one that he pretended to oppose. This is the one that had the $600 indirect payments, the one-time $600 payments. Trump wanted or pretended to want $2,000. Of course, he never actually cared, never actually bothered to fight for it. And here you see Trump signs $900 billion pandemic relief bill after earlier refusal. There are two upcoming races in Georgia for Senate, the Georgia runoffs. Trump could have used that as leverage against Mitch McConnell and the GOP-controlled Senate to actually back these $2,000 checks. If Trump actually cared, he could have used that to his advantage. Trump didn't actually care. It was all performance, like it always is. Like I said in the video first discussing this days ago, I told you Trump didn't actually support this because over the summer, the Democratic-controlled House passed a $3.4 trillion COVID relief bill that included $1,200 in direct payments. Trump didn't support that back then, said it was wasteful spending. Yet now, pretending to back $2,000 in direct payments, of course, never actually cared, ended up passing the very bill that he spent here 4 minutes complaining about on December 22nd. Let me just remind you of what Trump said in that video.
I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation.
There you go. On December 22nd, Donald Trump called this bill, the $600, ridiculously low. 5 days later, signs the bill into law. Is anybody still surprised by this? I mean, really, you should send this video to your friends and family who still support Trump. As I discussed days ago, when Trump made this announcement, I told you he never actually cared. This proves he never actually cared. Now, of course, people like Bernie Sanders have been actually fighting for $2,000, not just $2,000 in one-time checks, but monthly payments of $2,000 since the beginning of the pandemic. Bernie was, of course, excited by the idea that Trump may support $2,000. Of course, Bernie also knew Trump never actually backed it. The real issue was going to be getting Mitch McConnell to budge, which, of course, he won't because there's no reason for him to, unless Trump forced his hand, like I said, over the Georgia runoffs, which Trump did not. So never actually happened. But just a reminder here, people have been fighting for you. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, several others have actually been vocal about pushing $2,000 a month in direct payments, similar to, say, Canada, where there isn't a universal basic income, but if your job was impacted by COVID-19, you could apply for the $2,000 a month. As well as potentially other benefits if you're a student or didn't qualify for the CERB. But I mean, other countries in Europe as well, wage subsidies. Germany covered up to 87% for full-time pay, up to 100% for part-time work. So other countries actually had some real financial support for their people. Americans here trying to get by on one-time checks. And of course, unemployment, which was now cut to $300, was $600. This bill cuts it to $300. So yeah, just a big mess. And of course, the House, the GOP House, blocked the $2,000 stimulus checks. Of course, you know, the House is controlled by the Democratic Party, but Pelosi put this up for unanimous consent, meaning if one person opposed it, it'd be blocked. So Kevin McCarthy of the GOP blocked the $2,000 increase that Trump was pushing for, or pretended to push for. So it never actually passed the House. But now there apparently is going to be a real vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks. So this, I assume, will likely pass the House if it isn't unanimous consent, if it's just a normal vote. So we will see on that. But of course, then it gets to the Senate. Mitch McConnell doesn't back it. It's not going to pass the GOP-controlled Senate. But I want to tell you here, Trump's delay of signing this relief bill, if he was going to sign it, he should have signed it earlier, because his delay here caused some serious issues in terms of how this impacts people who are receiving the money. So because Trump did not sign the bill on Saturday, Those in the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance and the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation programs will likely not receive a payment for the final week of the year, and the $300 federal enhancement may only last 10 weeks instead of 11 weeks for most folks. That's because states can't provide benefits for weeks that start before programs are authorized, but the legislation calls for the extra payments to end on March 14th. So you'll be impacted now. You'll receive less money because Trump didn't sign this earlier. If Trump signed this earlier, then the unemployment benefits you would have received more money through unemployment. But because he waited for no reason at all, again, didn't actually fight for the $2,000, then you're actually receiving less money because of it. Again, showing you Trump is not only an idiot, but he doesn't care. It's one thing to be stupid and care and try to get things done. He's both an idiot and doesn't care. So ultimately, his protest over the initial bill was all for nothing, and now you're going to see how this turns out. Maybe this $2,000. No, I was going to say maybe there's some way it gets through. It's not getting through. It may pass the House. It's not going to pass the Senate, and of course, Trump doesn't actually care to fight for it. So that's the result.